Forget everything you think you know about fair fights. What if I told you a single German Tiger tank once held off an entire formation of Allied tanks against all odds? This isn't a myth, it's a real-life David versus Goliath story from World War II that continues to astonish historians and tank experts alike. It is a moment where tactics, technology, and human instinct collided on a battlefield torn apart by smoke and steel. In this episode, we travel back to that fateful day to witness how one tank, outgunned and outnumbered, carved its name into military legend. The scene opens in a quiet sector of the Western Front, where the rumble of engines was the only warning of what was about to unfold. Nestled behind the broken outlines of a half-destroyed village stood a single TigerI heavy tank, a mechanical beast that seemed almost sculpted for dominance. Even among the Germans, the Tiger was spoken of with a mix of pride and superstition. To the Allies, it was a nightmare given shape. A machine whose armor could shrug off hits that would rip lesser tanks apart, and whose long-barreled 88mm gun could reach out with terrifying precision. Yet, on this day, the Tiger was alone, cut off from its unit, low on supplies, and staring down an approaching Allied force that outnumbered it many times over. For the Allied tank crews, the first hint of danger came in the form of reports, vague, unsettling, and easily dismissed. A lone Tiger. Here? Many believed it was a misidentification, the kind of battlefield rumor that often turned a simple Panzerführer into something far more monstrous in the minds of frightened soldiers. Even experienced commanders were skeptical. After all, what Tiger crew would willingly remain isolated with enemy armor advancing in formation? The idea seemed absurd, but as they pushed forward through the fields, the truth became unmistakable. The silhouette in the distance, broad and squat with its unmistakable turret, belonged to none other than the feared Tiger-Thinner. The first exchange came quickly. Allied tanks rolled into range, their commanders barking orders as gunners aligned their sights on the massive German machine. The opening salvo cracked through the air, several shells slamming into the Tiger's hull and turret. But instead of the expected explosion, the rounds glanced off the armor, leaving little more than scorch marks and dents. The radio chatter among the Allied crews shifted instantly from confidence to confusion, then to dread. This machine was very real, very present, and completely unbothered by their first attempt to destroy it. Then came the counterstrike. The Tiger's turret swung with mechanical smoothness, its gun settling on the nearest Allied tank. When the 80mm cannon fired, the shot thundered across the battlefield, tearing through armor and igniting the tank from the inside. A second, third, and fourth shot followed, each finding its mark with almost clinical precision. Within minutes, several Allied tanks were burning wrecks, black smoke curling toward the sky. What had started as an easy advance had suddenly turned into a desperate fight for survival. But the Tiger's dominance wasn't just a result of its firepower. Its commander, an experienced veteran who had survived countless engagements, understood that sitting still meant death. He ordered the driver to reposition constantly, seeking cover behind ruined walls, shallow ridges, and craters left by artillery bombardments. Even the smallest elevation in the ground became a shield or vantage point. This mobility made it difficult for Allied gunners to land accurate shots, and the Tiger exploited every second of that advantage. The Allies quickly realized brute force would not save them. They shifted tactics, attempting to flank the Tiger, to pull its attention in multiple directions. But for every maneuver they made, the Tiger answered with equal cunning. The German crew coordinated like a single organism, the loader working furiously, the gunner scanning for threats with the Predator's focus, the commander tracking enemy movements from his cupola, and the driver anticipating every shift of enemy armor. Their coordination created a deadly rhythm, Spot, aim, fire, relocate, repeat. Allied crews fought back with remarkable courage. Many of them knew the legends surrounding the Tiger. They had heard the stories of shells bouncing harmlessly off its armor, while its own gun destroyed anything it touched. Yet they pressed forward anyway, trying to close the distance where their shots might punch through the weaker side or rear armor. Tank after tank attempted to rush the Tiger. Some got close enough to release bursts of fire, but even then, the enemy's rounds either failed to penetrate or struck at angles that minimized their effect. Each failed attempt tightened the invisible noose around the Allies, while the Tiger continued to swing like a hammer. At one point, a group of Allied tanks managed to coordinate a simultaneous assault, approaching from multiple directions to overwhelm the Tiger. The German commander immediately recognized the danger. He ordered the driver to angle the hull toward the greatest threat while keeping the turret trained on the more vulnerable enemy. The result was a brutal exchange. Shells clanged against the Tiger's thick front armor, sparks flying, while the Tiger's own shots continued to punch through Allied tanks with devastating power. Several Allied crews bailed out of their crippled machines, scrambling for cover as their tanks burned behind them. The Tiger's armor endured hit after hit. Some impacts rattled the crew so violently that they briefly lost their senses. Others left deep gouges that would have split lesser tanks apart. Inside the cramped steel interior, the temperature soared. Smoke seeped in through small cracks. The smell of oil and gunpowder grew sharp and overwhelming. Yet the crew held firm, fully aware that a single moment of hesitation could cost them their lives. Even as the battle dragged on, the Tiger's resilience seemed almost otherworldly. Allied shells struck its sides and turret in rapid succession, creating deafening clangs as the armor resisted the onslaught. A particularly powerful hit jammed the turret momentarily, forcing the crew to work frantically to free its rotation mechanism. Another round struck the track, causing sparks to fly but failing to immobilize the tank. The machine was being pushed beyond its limits, yet it continued to function, fueled by the will of the men inside. As the clash reached its peak, the battlefield transformed into a graveyard of metal. Allied tanks lay disabled or destroyed across the fields, their smoking hulls marking the Tiger's defensive line. The carnage told a clear story. Despite overwhelming numbers, the Allied force had been halted by a single opponent. But no machine, no matter how formidable, can resist forever. The Tiger's ammunition was running dangerously low. The gun barrel, overheated from constant firing, risked warping. Inside, the crew could feel the tank's engine struggling under the strain of rapid maneuvering. The transmission groaned, warning lights flickered. The German commander knew the moment was approaching when they could no longer sustain the fight. Still, he refused to retreat blindly. He directed his crew to execute one final maneuver, an angled withdrawal, while continuing to fire in controlled bursts. This move allowed the Tiger to break contact with the remaining Allied tanks without exposing its weaker rear armor. The retreat was slow, tense, and methodical, each step a calculated risk. Yet somehow, through smoke and chaos, the Tiger managed to slip away, battered but alive. Only later would Allied officers piece together the full extent of what had happened that day. A single Tiger had not only halted their advance, but destroyed multiple tanks, disrupted their formations, and forced an entire armored group to reassess their approach. Reports from surviving crews described the encounter with a mix of awe and disbelief. Many admitted that facing the Tiger felt like confronting an unstoppable force, an iron fortress that moved, thought, and fought with terrifying effectiveness. The Germans, for their part, regarded the crew's actions with deep respect. Their stand became one of the most cited examples of the Tiger's battlefield potential when operated by a skilled, disciplined crew. It influenced tactical manuals, reinforced the importance of crew training and reshaped Allied strategies for confronting heavy armor. Engineers and commanders alike studied the engagement, drawing lessons that would carry forward into post-war tank development. The legacy of that lone Tiger continues to echo through time. It stands as a testament to what can happen when advanced engineering, expert crew coordination, and sheer determination converge in a single moment of history. Long after the smoke cleared, the story lingered, retold in military academies, debated by historians, and remembered by veterans who lived through the terror of those steel giants. And even today, as modern armored warfare evolves with new technologies, sensors, and precision weapons, the tale of the isolated Tiger remains a symbol of battlefield dominance. It reminds us that sometimes history is shaped not by vast armies but by the extraordinary actions of a handful of brave individuals inside a machine that defied every expectation. The lone Tiger may have withdrawn before it was finally overwhelmed by the tide of war, but its stand endures as one of the most dramatic armored engagements of World War II, an echo of an era when courage and ingenuity could turn even the bleakest odds into a moment of legend.